Hello everyone, and welcome to what will soon be a crafting floor. As you can see, I'm going to make this Appa bucket hat, as well as talking about Avatar the Last Airbender. I've made one of these hats before, but I ended up putting the arrow way too high, so the hat only looked good around really tall people that have that bird's eye view, which admittedly is half the population.
I better watch my 5'2" mouth. First of all, I'm glad you said that. I'm not 5'2".
Also, imagine if I made a mini skirt with this fabric. That would be a look. Or for a Halloween costume. Appa, but stylish. So I did this online quiz to see what element I would be, if I'm a waterbender or whatever. And I did the first one that came up, and I did the entire quiz, and it didn't give me any results. It was so sad. So I went to another quiz, and this time it was a palm reading one. So it looked at the lines on my palms, and it said I'm a waterbender, which I agree with. Of course, amazing waterbender Katara, love her. Katara is such a badass, but she's also a healer. She's great at emotional support. Even though she's not the chosen one, she still has the dedication, which I think it makes her even better because she's not obligated to help with the mission, but she does it anyways. She's the glue to the group. She's a Hermione Granger to them all. I had to choose another person to be my mom. She would definitely be in the top 5. I'm not gonna say who the others are. And I love how her character balances out stereotypical things like sewing and nurturing, which is fine if you love to do that. But also, she can fight. You better watch out. She could come for you. She's not scared to fight. If you're wondering what I'm doing down here, I have traced out the pieces from this pattern here. Oh, I can also fight, see? But I love how they have themes of war prisoner, genocide, but they do it in a way that they give comedy so younger people can watch it and still enjoy it, and older people can watch it, and when you rewatch it, it's still entertaining. Also, this pattern is from the Essentials Club, and I will link it in the description if you want to make a bucket hat as well. Making a reversible one, so you're going to need to make sets of each, which we're going to put together at the end. These are cut on the fold, meaning and there's actually 2 pieces when you unfold it again. Now I'm going to sew right sides together on the brim and the band. Yes. So everyone says that season 1 is the weakest, and I guess I can see that because there's a lot of standalone episodes, which if you're used to watching Netflix series, that probably not used to that style. Some people say it's the least consistent as they just started writing the series and they didn't know how much humor to add in the show. So I guess I can see that, but I still think it's a great season. What I'm doing now in the hat is basting. So I made all the rings, and I'm putting the brim and the band. I can never remember the band. I'm putting the brim and the band right sides together, and then I'm using a wide stitch, hand stitch, to line them up. So then when I go in with the sewing machine, especially because it's a stretchy material, they'll be lined up and I can fix it before I start sewing it, so I don't have to seam rip it later. It's the annoyingest thing ever.
I'll make sure Appa doesn't eat all your hay.
My favorite episode would probably be Winter Solstice 2, because there's so much plot stuff going on. A lot of the previous episodes are all character development based, which is nice. I love getting a good backstory, good flashbacks, all that stuff. But this one really moves the plot forward, and you can see the intensity. And I wish they would have that sense of urgency and intensity that this mission needs to be done ASAP.
In later episodes.
Dude's favorite episode would probably be the Warriors of Kyoshi raid episode, because Saka gets humbled big time by a bunch of amazing women, learns how to respect people, and the warriors are just amazing. I also like the Storm episode because you get to see how Aang and Zuko are similar and that evil and good aren't so black and white. You get to see instances when Zuko is standing up for people, being, a good person. You get to see that on both sides, which I like, because I like to see villains that have more depth, either have backstory or show places where they're vulnerable, because It makes characters more realistic. Because even like the worst people out there, they are still people. They have those moments, although maybe slim. It does happen. I also love the flashback scenes with Zuko. They're done so well. And you really feel empathy for him, and you get to see his past and how severe his punishments were, because he got embarrassed in front of like his entire nation, and we're trying to do something good too. I also like how in that episode after he saves the main trio, you think it's like a turning point for him, but it actually brings up a lot of resentment in himself and makes him feel guilty, pushes him to do better in his father's eyes, to the opposite direction of what we're all thinking would happen. It's sad to see that he hates himself for trying to be kind. We're gonna create the arrow for the front, and you want to have two arrows because we're gonna turn them inside out so that you don't see any edges. So I just fold the fabric over and then draw out an arrow with a ruler, and now we're gonna cut it out. And I also finished sewing the two hat pieces. You want to make sure you put the arrow on this hat before we combine them so that you can't see the stitches into the inner layer. Anyways, back to Zuko. We love him. I like how the show uses visual cues in his appearance to show his increasing duality throughout the series. And he reminds me of Draco Malfoy. Like, they're long lost brothers. You cannot tell me otherwise. Like, imagine Zuko and Malfoy sitting down, talking about their toxic fathers. I think that would be great for just both of them. Talking about the pressure, their legacy, pressure of their family. They would be great together. Not date. Although I'm sure someone out there ships. I know who you are. You know who else is amazing is Zuko's sister, Azula. I just love her. You may be like, yeah, okay. She's a bit manipulative, but she's just so confident. She knows her skill set, which leads to her downfall later, but oh well. I love how you get to see some more of her backstory. She grew up in such an environment, like, of course she's gonna think the Fire Nation needs to rule it. That's how she grew up her whole life. Like, it makes sense. So I don't blame her. She could change. So after I finished cutting out the arrow, I flipped it around and I sewed it, and then I turned it inside out. Now we're gonna iron it before we put it on the layer. Also, speaking of the worst episodes of the series, why does everyone hate The Great Divide? I get how that episode could feel pointless, because there isn't really any repercussions later on in the season, but it's still entertaining. I've also heard that Nickelodeon used to replay that episode just on repeat, which makes sense, because then anyone, even if they haven't seen previous episodes, can still enjoy that particular one. But I guess it could be annoying if you just had the Great Divide rolling over and over again every time you wanted to watch Avatar. Okay, so I finished the arrow, and it's on this side of the hat, and I have the other layer, and I'm putting the two right sides together, and then basting along all these edges. But very important is to leave a little gap so then I can turn it inside out after. Now, let's talk about Sokka. He's an amazing character. He's so funny. I feel like he's not exactly arrogant, but can come across that way because he's so loud, and I think that comes from him being actually insecure, and because he's not a bender, he feels like he needs to bring something to the group and be a leader. I wonder what he'd do if he found those like TikTok alpha male guys. I'd be scared for him. I also love that even though sometimes he's the butt of the joke, the humor, He usually takes that as like a learning experience, like the Warriors. And I also love how cynical he is in his hesitance to believe supernatural, which is a contrast from some of the other characters in the trio. Okay, now I'm doing the difficult task of turning the hat inside out. I just sewed it. I feel like if you had a tube, one of those tube flippers, that might be easier. Also, I love the book's use of trios, because when you just have one main character, you can't see like how each other's personalities play off the other characters, which I really love. Shows with good characters can really make or break an episode for me, and I love all the characters in the show, so that makes it really enjoyable. Because having boring characters are ones I can't stand. Sometimes I just have stop watching the show. I hate them so much. So I finally turned it inside out. Now I just have to go along the rings so these two pieces stay connected. The hat is complete, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video and try out making one of these hats for yourself. And if you give up and can't do it, you can always buy one on my Depop.
A mountain divides them apart.